Alright, that seems to be functioning. Oh, just get the email saying we're live. So I guess audio check?
Sure.
Assuming
It wasn't freaking telling me that we were online yet, but yeah.
Alright, is the ad over or
Seems to be, well, it doesn't always open with an ad now. Sometimes it drops one after like 5 minutes.
yeah, nothing I can do about that.
I wasn't blaming you.
I mean, well, there is stuff we can do about that, but that involves us hitting partner.
Okay, Adam and Josh, please say a couple of words.
Words. Was that enough of them?
Yes, but Josh didn't say anything yet.
Yeah, I tried putting in headphones to stop in feedback loops, but
Alright.
then it wasn't picking up my microphone.
Okay, everybody sounds good.
Awesome. So I guess last call for drinks and or restroom before we begin.
I'm good.
Indeed.
Yeah, all good.
Alright, we can start now if we want then. If that's good with you guys. Adam?
Sure.
Alrighty then. Galaxy, you're suing for the top.
Yep.
Gameplay goes away. Alrighty. Let me check the audio real quick. Yes, audio devices are sorted. You chuckle, but the way I have it set up, if I do not switch the audio devices correctly, I basically blow out my eardrums.
That's why I was chuckling. I'm like, oh.
Oh, I thought that was the guest chuckling. Alright. I guess countdown when ready, Gulix.
Okay. We can begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did you hear about the investment banker who got investigated for coming down with tuberculosis? I guess there really is no ethical consumption under capitalism. Anyway, this is Fragments of Silicon.
All right. Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me as always are Petty and Galix. All right, let us get into the news. Petty, you're starting us off this week because once again...
When it rains, it goddamn pours.
Pours? Your life is a flood zone this year.
Fucking no shot. So, this week overall was going fairly well, and then around 3 o'clock, my mom calls my sister and informs her that she was fired from her job. So that fucking sucks. Apparently, they didn't tell mom this, but we're guessing the reason they fired her was to make room for the lady who just had a kid and has been gone for 2 months.
So hasn't your mom been on light duty for like a while?
No, my dad has been. My mom has not been.
I thought she had a thing and then wasn't quite better from it or whatever.
She had RSV, but she wasn't really on light duty. She worked in an office, so there isn't really light duty in that.
There can be. You can get exemptions from having to reload the copier.
Fair enough, but yeah, they decided to fire her. So that's aggravating. Especially because we don't know how long my dad is also going to have his job because they're doing away with his shift. Currently, my dad is on light duty due to a shoulder injury, but we don't know how long it's going to take for mom to get a new job. She had the staffing center.
I mean, it's hard to protect that at the best of times these days.
Well, also the bigger problem is my mom is nearing her 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So age discrimination is very much a thing in the working world. They just can't tell you they're discriminating you against your age. So that's probably the biggest wrench, is if this was, 10, 15 years ago, she probably wouldn't have a problem getting a job almost anywhere. But because she is in her mid-50s, it becomes harder, even just getting an office job. Because they'd rather have somebody in their early 20s they can pay barely above minimum wage. So yeah, that's been stressful. As far as gaming goes, I rented, what is that? It's one of the new Fate games. Fate Samurai Remnant. It's alright. It's very much what would happen if you added, what's it called? Visual novel elements to a Muso game.
Okay.
In that, it's kind of like Digimon Survive, where there's a visual novel, and then it goes into a Muso game. They don't try to combine them. They're just like bolted onto each other, but they don't mix. And it's interesting. Granted, Fate games are rarely awful. I know there have been some not great ones, but they've still been at least playable. And then I still need to try and get my PSP reshelled, and hopefully that'll fix the select button on that. But that's a later problem when I have more energy to deal with things. But yeah, I think that's it for me.
All right, Galix, it's your go.
Well, Team Knight was victorious in the Splatfest, even though I forgot that was a thing up until the day before it. Thankfully, I got it in time. That was what time of day do you get things done in? Morning, afternoon, or night?
Not like medieval night, right?
Right. I was concerned that this team, that this Splatfest was perhaps overly selecting towards mirror matches due to teams being based on who was playing at the same time. but it might have just been because I think Team Night was also the most popular one.
Because of
Um,
the gamer predication and whatnot.
Quite possibly, yes. Also, I have picked up and am charging my new laptop, which is a friggin' what is it? Tough Asus gaming laptop.
Mm.
So when I have a day where I don't have a bunch of work to do, I'm gonna get that set up and figure out how to fucking suffocate Copilot and
That's a
install
fucking mood.
whatever other things that I need for basic functionality.
The Start It All Back program I put in the private section basically kills Copilot because it rips a lot of stuff out and changes the start menu back to normal, so you don't have ads.
Okay, well, I will decently use that. Probably use something like that.
I think it's like $5. Which
What does
the
it
kill.
does it set it back to like what it was in 10 or what?
You can have a Windows 7 era start menu if you so desire.
Uh-huh. And I hopefully it'll even with Windows Basic you count as admin on your own device, right? So it'll let me install programs that aren't through the Microsoft Store. Okay.
Yeah.
Look, I had a really bad experience with Windows 11 with my work laptop.
No, that is fair.
Anyway, so yeah, that's I think most of what's going on with me.
Fine.
All right.
Oh, and I had a birthday on Sunday, so I'm 39 now.
Oh man.
It really snuck up on me this year because I had all this stuff with like visiting my sister and things going on.
Yeah, no, fair.
Right. So you good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. That means it's my turn. Let's see. Well, I suppose, my week has been mainly finishing up getting my new laptop up to snuff. I am pleased to say I ripped out Copilot and, using the Windows Store functionality before I installed Petty's program.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the only reason I have the Windows Store is because I use the Xbox Game Pass. If it wasn't for that, store probably would have been ripped out too.
I mean, the store was part of Windows 10.
Yeah, it's here. It's not the worst thing in the world, but only because I have it silenced.
That's one of those little things that got to remember to do with your new electronic device. Muting all the fucking sounds it makes.
Yeah, there's a sound setting where you can just change system sounds to none, and it is the best thing that Windows has allowed me to do.
Not just that, not just like Windows sounds, but I mean like Discord sounds, Teams/Skype sounds, because they're all on by default. You got to remember to turn them off.
Ah, yes. I mean, mine OBS deafens all that stuff for me at least.
Yeah. Plus, it wasn't just laptop I was setting up. As my new phone came in a couple of days ago, and I had to set that up as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pleased to say that, all of the updating and, downloading and all of that various busy work has been completed. As far as testing games on this thing, still limited there. I've been playing Resident Evil 4, the original version, which for some reason on my old laptop ran very slow. And even now, it's chugging in certain rooms. and I'm not sure what the cause of that is. Like, some places it runs at 60 FPS like it should, but otherwise, other times it's like it's underwater.
The original version?
Yeah, the original version.
The new CPUs might be missing the instruction set that it's looking for.
That could be it.
Because they have stripped some instructions out of newer CPUs, and it just might not have the instructions it's looking for.
Yeah. And I briefly tested a couple of Lego games today because the kids are returning this weekend, and playing Resident Evil 4 around them does not seem like a good idea. Like,
that sounds like a recipe of they're not seeing Uncle Adam for a while.
I'm like, right. Lego City Undercover is still an unoptimized Titanic piece of shit, by the way.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong on that. I tried playing that in the Wii U. Yikes.
Yeah, and every laptop I've gotten since I got that game, it's just been a mess in a myriad of ways that other Lego games aren't. Like, I ran that, and I don't know, something was wrong with the codec. Like, it was green, and the colors were all wrong.
Weird.
Yeah, and while Lego Marvel Superheroes ran just fine.
I think you could ran Lego Marvel on a potato, though.
That's not the point.
I know. It's optimization.
Also, that's not exactly true. It is one of the Xbox 360 era Lego games, as opposed to one of the PlayStation 2 era Lego games.
Fair.
But... yeah, and I chalk that up to Lego City Undercover being developed by TT Fusion, like the B team.
Yeah.
So, anyway. So, that's my news for the week. And merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Josh Bailey of Anxious Noob Game.
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing today?
Yeah, doing well, thanks.
Good to have you. Good to have you. Right, so how we like to get started is we like to get to know the people behind the game, the studio, and all of that business. And we begin that journey by asking this particular question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Well, I guess on a personal level, I've just been playing games since I was a child, really. And yeah, I guess I had my first console was a Game Gear, and then I had a Mega Drive. And then I think, like most children in the 90s, I loved Sonic.
Woo!
And Pokemon, and it just kind of went from there, got every console not every console that came out, because, there was the console wars and you'd get one. I think I had a PlayStation 1.
Yeah, most people got a PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
Depending on the region, but yes.
I'm like, depending on the region, you either got a Nintendo 64 or a Sega Saturn as your second choice.
I think I had a PlayStation 1. My cousin had a PlayStation 1. And my best friend had an N64. So we would just kind of go to each other's houses as kids and play all the games. It was great.
That's how it worked for me in high school. Like, I had an N64. A friend of mine had a PlayStation 1. Till I got a PlayStation 1 eventually, but that was when I was out of high school. Anyway, so at what point did you want to venture into making your own game?
Well, I work as a video editor and a sound engineer, and mostly I work on sound for TV. And recently, about 2-3 years ago, I got a freelancing job working for basically a studio who works as part of, or they had Larian as their client, So I did a bit of voiceover recording for Baldur's Gate 3, and that was my first time working in the games industry. And it was really fun. So I basically downloaded Unity and decided I would try and learn how to use Unity and see if I could get some more work in the games industry. And anyway, that didn't really pan out because it turns out the gaming industry is harder to break into and lower paying than the TV industry. So I stayed in TV, but I had downloaded Unity, and when I started playing around with it, I just really enjoyed it, and it kind of became my new game. And so basically for 2 years, I've just been working on this game, which is my first game. Originally, I just wanted to make something simple. That's why it's a tower defense game. Because in my head, I thought, well, it'll be simple to make. But obviously, I just got carried away and kept adding extra features. And it's just been going really well. I just really enjoy the process.
God, if we had a nickel for every time scope creep got mentioned on this program, we would have a lot of nickels.
We would probably be able to buy a game studio.
Probably.
Well, the advice you're normally given is start small.
Go ahead.
And make smaller games until you learn what you're doing. Then you can sort of move on to bigger projects, which makes total sense. And that is how I started. That's how I intended to start. But then I was like, oh, I can add physics. Oh, I can add a moving camera.
Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy.
Yeah. And each thing I added, it just felt like it was making it better. So, probably I got carried away, but I'm happy with it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, since you've been spending two some odd years on it. It's like, that's a significant amount of time, and better to have it be worthwhile than it be a waste, I suppose. Anyway, outside of the scope creep factor, did you find developing a tower defense game to be as easy as they said it was?
That pregnant pause there, though.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say there's been a challenge. There's been challenges. I think for me the biggest challenge was just everything to do with code and using Unity and input systems, like basically all of the sort of under the hood boring stuff. Not boring, but it's not as exciting as doing artwork and coming up with designs and thinking of mechanics. Actually implementing them just takes ages. At least it did for me, because I was a noob. Still am a noob. I think it took me about 6 months to get the actual sorry, I'm still half asleep. It's 2:30 a.m. where I am at the moment. But yeah, it took me a while to get the prototype up and running, because it's basically the first thing I'd ever made, and it went through a lot of iterations. But once that framework was done, everything else, it was just a case of making designs, designing enemies, making levels. Hasn't been too bad.
Right.
I'd say it's the tower defense element hasn't been the bit that's challenging. It's the game element. It's making menus, making a save system, making controller inputs work and not crash, figuring out why things are breaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, I am completely not surprised. And yeah, as you said, those are the unsexy elements of game design, so to speak. But, they're the elements that when they go right, you don't notice. But if they are broken, that means something went really wrong.
Mm-hmm.
No in between.
it's just terrible when you watch someone play a game and they stumble across some new bug that you just had never even encountered before, and it just breaks everything, and then you spend 1, 2, 3, 4 days trying to figure out what even caused it and how to fix it. But also, it's quite satisfying when you do, assuming you manage to fix the issue eventually. And so far, I've been lucky that, after 2 years, every time there has been an issue, I have been able to eventually fix it.
Right. I suppose you have some examples of this happening.
Yeah, well, a recent one was one of my playtesters discovered that basically if you open, it's a really random thing that basically 99% of players wouldn't do, but if you open up the upgrade menu and then use a keyboard shortcut for an ability, it locks out the ability buttons and you can't press them anymore. So that's just
that's a hell of a
unforgivable
bug.
bug that can't be in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me so long to figure it. Like just saying that you had to have that menu open specifically and then use a shortcut button, and that's what locked it out. Because the original bug was just reported as, "Oh, my ability button's locked out for some reason."
Mm-hmm.
And it just took days of testing to find that, and then it took days of trying to decode and figure out why that particular
Record your bugs if you can, kids. You will make the life easier for the devs.
Bug reports.
Yes.
We don't talk about those very often on this program, surprisingly enough.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Well, it is good that you managed to whack that bug before it caused any problems. Anyway, so what is Bean Beast? What is this tower defense game? Like, in so far as what are you defending? Who are your towers? Who are you fighting? All of those elements.
Yeah, I mean the actual game is quite simple, really, because when I first started making it, I never kind of went into it with any big ambition to come up with some kind of clever story. And most of my favorite tower defense games, you just open them up and play them, and there's not even a pretense of a story. Something like Balloons, where it's just you open up a map and you put monkeys down and they shoot balloons, and there's just there's no background or anything. I did make a little intro story to it though, after people were curious. They'd say, who is this? Why are you playing as a lizard standing on a tortoise? What's the deal with that?
Why aren't you playing as a lizard
come up with
standing
some
on a
kind of
tortoise?
I mean, I suppose it's a bit of a fair question.
Yeah. I mean, so the story, in so much as you can call it a story, is you just play as this little guy, this blue lizard, and he's exploring an island, and just as you play through, he's an inventor, so he's constantly coming up with new traps, and the traps are, what you use to defend against all the monsters that come after you as you progress from map to map. But you also collect bean beasts, which are kind of like your hero units, and they're somewhat inspired by Pokemon or Tamagotchis, where they just start off as little weak beans and then they just get stronger and stronger, and you have to kind of rely on them to get through the game because they have these super powerful abilities that kind of help you get through tougher waves.
Okay. I mean, it's a good enough premise for a tower defense game. Like, that is, I suppose, the beauty. I'm not sure if that's the word to use, but maybe the elegance of a tower defense game, as you noted. You don't really need that much of a story to make it work. It reminds me of like platforming games. You can have a very basic story and it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess the story was never really a focus of mine, but I kind of, after I made the characters, it felt like I should at least give it some story and direction, and yeah, it's quite, little cute characters. People want to know what they're on about.
Now, I'm assuming you're a solo dev?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that means you have undertaken all aspects of the game development here. Not just the programming, but the art and the writing, such as it is. And on that note, was it easy coming up with all of the? I'm presuming this is pixel art.
Yeah, it's I remember back in like 2000s, there was a app called, I think it's called Game RPG Maker 2000. My cousin introduced me to it, and there was also Game Maker 2000, and I messed around with those. Never like seriously to actually make anything serious. It was just more to play around with it. But I guess I'd already become accustomed to pixel art and using sprite sheets and simple logic rules just from that. But other than that, I haven't not really done any training or anything. I'm just someone who likes doodling and drawing. And then, fortunately, because I work in sound, I was able to do all the sound myself. So in terms of like the art and the sound, yeah, I haven't found that's probably the easiest part for me, especially with pixel art, because you can get apps where so basically if I'm commuting to work, I can just sit and draw on an app. Some pixel art designs, I just draw like a little outline, a little shape, and it'll be like, oh, this looks like an ant, and then I'll fill it in later and add the details.
Mm-hmm.
Right. In terms of the sound design, are we talking about just the sound effects, or are we talking about the music as well?
Yeah, the music as well. Music is actually, a lot of it is, so in my early 20s, I was in a lot of bands who, basically failed bands and then I gave up the dream and got an actual job. And, but I have this basic backlog of music that I'd written. And so a lot of this music is actually kind of recycled and remixed from music that I'd written when I was a lot younger, which is quite fun. It's like a project where I sort of take this old song that I wrote 10, 15 years ago and just remix it in the form of game chiptune sort of arrangement, speed it up, make it sound more fun.
Well, I mean, that's certainly a unique tale to this program. Like we've had people who make music, but I don't think we've ever had anyone like recycle their old, let's say, rock music or whatever into their game. So,
I was wondering if the thing is the actual original tracks are also, I find they're quite bad. They're like badly recorded, bad singing, songs I don't even really like anymore. But it is quite interesting how, if you listen to them, you can hear that the main theme for the first level, the third level, the menu music, they all come from these songs. So I was wondering if I should somehow include them in the game as like an Easter egg or something. Just something for people to find or discover.
Maybe something, I don't know, collectible based, or like you get all 3 stars on the level and you get all the stars, and that'll unlock the gallery mode where you can listen to those. Anyway, so that does beg another question that I don't think we've asked yet, and that is, what is the current state of the game? Like, how far along is it?
So it's, fingers crossed, it's basically, I'm closing in on finishing. So I'm working on the final world at the moment. Once I finish that, I need to make the end game. But the end game is basically going to be an extra hard difficulty where the levels are sort of changed up a bit. It won't just be changing the numbers to give the enemies more health. It'll sort of be, I'm going to go in and change the waves for each level and add in harder enemies that come in sooner. And maybe, instead of 8 waves, it'll be 15 waves. And it'll be like, it's just a super challenging mode for the people who say that the game is too easy, but saved for the end of the game so that, you can take it on once you've unlocked everything. Kind of like a new game plus. But that, in theory, shouldn't take me too long because I've already done the groundwork with all the levels. So my initial plan is to kind of have the game to release sort of late June, July. That's based on a couple of sort of milestone assumptions that that I can hit certain milestones within a certain period of time and stick to that schedule. But I have been, I've told my the people who are following me, I've made it clear that if the game's not ready or it's broken, then I'm not going to release it. I'm going to just, delay that slightly. I'd rather release like a complete finished game without any bugs than rush to get it out just at some arbitrary date that I'd decided. But yeah, I feel positive about it. I think I probably will hit that target, but I can't say with certainty. It's my first game and I'm a noob and everything takes longer than I think it's going to. So even though I'm in the final stages, who knows what other spanner could just appear.
I can pass along this bit of advice. That is, it really doesn't matter how many games you complete. It's always best to not give a release date until you are 100% absolutely sure. Believe me, we have veterans and, veterans of veterans on this program, and even they will say, they won't commit to a release date unless they've got it locked in or something like that. So, you are learning some good lessons at this stage, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, that's like that's what I'm aiming for.
I'm trying to remember the Miyamoto quote here, and I'm drawing a blank about something like
the good game, the delayed game, eventually good.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That's something that's really not applicable to the modern age because it didn't see early access. And
nowadays you can release a game shit and patch it up afterwards.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well,
it's still better to have it be good to start with, though.
Yeah.
But, look at Cyberpunk 2077. That ended up being good somehow.
Right, or ask your precious Final Fantasy 14 how.
Okay,
worked.
Look. I was not there for the bad parts.
Anyway, so speaking of which, what is the goal, if any? Once you get your game out into the wild, is there any sort of measure of success attached to it, or is this just like a complete learning experience in your eyes?
The goal has kind of changed over time, to be honest. Because if you'd asked me that question maybe a year ago, then the measure of success would just be to finish and release a game and to learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, it's completely taken me by surprise how much interest there's been in this game. That's kind of motivated me to polish it and make it a lot better than, you know, than how I'd initially set out. And it does look like I'll probably make more money from this game than from my day job. So
I'm like,
so for me, it's already. I mean, there's no way to know for certain how well it will perform, but just I do think it's already, in my eyes, I'm already over the moon and just really happy with it. Even if it made no money and people just played it and enjoyed it. The fact that I've made a game and I've got, you know, a Discord server full of people who play the game and enjoy it, and actually, like, it's very weird to me that people see it as a real game, because to me it's just been this project. This like abstract project that I've been working
on. That identity
on,
issue is not something new, especially for first-time devs. You mean I can make something?
Yeah. It's like, to me, it doesn't feel like a game. It's, even though it is obviously a game, and the fact that people externally experience it just as a game like they would any other game. It's very weird. It's a very weird feeling, but I enjoy it, and I feel like the game's already a success, even if I launched it and it was performed poorly.
Right.
I'll still be happy with the fact that I managed to, you know, stick it out and release a game.
Indeed. And have you given any thought to bringing your game to other platforms?
Yeah, I'm going to, after PC, I'm going to try and see if I can port to Switch. I actually got a little bit of funding, and I've got some money set aside for that. I was on a show called Pixel Pitch, and they basically pitched my game to them, and they gave me some money. One of the things I asked for money for was, it was for translation, some budget for translation, and some money for a development kit for the Switch. But I've since learned that you can't just put your game on a Switch. You have to get approval from Nintendo. And when you fill out the form to apply, it asks questions like, which games have you released before? How many games have you released with Nintendo? Who is your publisher? All these questions, to which my answer is no. And it makes me a little bit skeptical now. Like, I can't promise that I'm going to be able to port it to Switch. But I'd really love to. I just think for me that'd be a big achievement to just see my game on the Nintendo store. And then I also feel like this game will hopefully work well on a mobile, so I do think I'll try to do a mobile port afterwards. The game's it looks quite simple, but it's quite intense on the CPU sometimes.
Yeah.
When you've got hundreds of enemies. Most of the game is fine, but some of the, like when you play endless mode and there's 250 enemies on the screen and 50 towers and there's all like particle effects and it's running at 120 frames per second, I'm going to have to, if I'm going to try and port it to mobile, I might have to create a separate version where I tone it down a bit, but that's future me's problem.
Yeah.
And I suppose my final question at this juncture is, have you locked in a price yet?
Not really. It's something I've just been mulling over for months, really. I don't want it to be expensive. I'm not planning on making the price even remotely high. Like, I'm not sort of thinking about profitability or anything like that. I'm also slightly conscious of the fact that you can price your game so low that people assume it's garbage and then maybe don't give it a chance. I was thinking, like, I might just look at the price of similar games in the genre and just aim for that benchmark. And that, for me, appears to be sort of somewhere in the range of what would it be in dollars? Like $7 to $10.
Yes,
About what?
about 7 to 10 is about standard indie USD.
I'd say it's pretty standard for this level of tower defense game.
Mhm.
Like, there are tower defense games that can run 15 to 20, but those tend to be like made out of 3D graphics or are like Defense Grid or something like that. Yeah. Is something like this is probably comparable to something like Field Runners or the iBomber games, which run about $5 to $10, if I'm recalling correctly. Yeah. So it sounds like you've got the right range in mind.
Yeah, that's the ballpark I'm sort of thinking of in terms of specifically where it lands. I'm not 100% sure yet. I think I'll do a bit more market research as I'm sort of coming towards it. Once I've got my sort of launch date locked down. I mean, just to touch on that again, I know I said July, summer, but my official launch date is summer TBC. And I have been making it clear to everyone that basically my own bugbears as a gamer with these types of games. I'm trying to avoid them with my own game. So
Right.
my game, because I think a lot of people see tower defense, especially if it's a mobile game, and you immediately think, oh, there's going to be purchases and pay to win and stuff like that. And I just have designed this game so it just has none of that. And it's the same with the price as well. Look, I don't want to. Look, I've seen some moody tower defense games on Steam where they're asking for £20.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure what that'd be in dollars. I think it's about the same these days, maybe $20, $25, and you just think, surely not.
We've seen a couple of those, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, right. So I think I've run through my gamut of questions. Petty, Galax, anything more from you?
I think I'm good. Alex, you got anything?
Sorry, I muted myself. Yeah, I think you answered most of the things I was interested in.
All right, Josh, I want to thank you very much for being with us here today and telling us all about your game. It's been a enlightening conversation, and we hope to see Bean Beasts reach completion. Right, Petty, play us to the next segment. All right, so welcome to the topic of discussion for the week. This time we are talking about Mario Kart 8. I suppose both the original and the deluxe version of Mario Kart 8, which has dominated Mario Kart for 10 years now.
Yeah, this is one of the two games, at least that when the Switch came out, Nintendo just said, "Hey, we had a really good one going on the Wii U, so we're just gonna actually, no, not really. Well, put a pin in that. This one is one where they said, "Hey, we had a pretty good thing going on the Wii U, so we're just gonna do that again, and then also add a shit ton more to it."
I was about to say, they have
Smash is the other one I was thinking of, but Smash 4 was forked between the two kinds, and they added or they changed some features instead of just adding things.
Yeah, no, the other game you were thinking of was Pokken Tournament.
Oh yeah, they did do that too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Smash Ultimate is its own game. It's not a port of Smash 4.
Right.
Like, but yeah, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a updated port of the original Mario Kart 8. So, and that's kind of insane that it's been 11 years since we got a Mario Kart game on consoles. I can't say it's been it's been more than a decade since we've gotten a Mario Kart game because On Tour happened. And in fact that does tie into Mario Kart 8. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Because Mario Kart 8 started out as the Wii U's Mario Kart. Now there is more to it than that. Because Mario Kart 8 was far from, just another Mario Kart.
Yeah, this one they really went whole hog with the they'd done a little bit with versatile terrain before, but they really went in on your kart will just change between glider and underwater and kart, and also you have Back to the Future mode for non-gravity oriented tracks.
Yeah, the anti-grav tracks, or I'm not sure if they have like an official Mario Kart name to them, but those were the real showcase set piece to Mario Kart 8 because the glider that was introduced in Mario Kart 7.
They did even more of it.
Right. I'm just saying that mechanic was the centerpiece of Mario Kart 7. It was expanded in Mario Kart 8. And it looks to be a Mario Kart fixture at this point. But we'll talk about Mario Kart World next week because the direct is tomorrow at time of recording. Anyway, Mario Kart 8. Like I said, there's a lot to say about this. And also, it is yet another Mario Kart game at the same time. Like it isn't as off the wall, ironically enough, as say Double Dash.
Well, Double Dash had the unique setup with having two characters, and they did some interesting things with swapping and having items in storage and stuff, which actually that is one of the bigger changes I think between 8 and 8 Deluxe is that Deluxe gave you a second item slot.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly. And actually Petty Fan is currently showing off another one of the more notable things about 8, which is that 8 is the one where it really stopped being just Mario Kart, because we have
Link.
5 distinctly non-Mario characters in this.
And you also get non-Mario skins for the Miis.
That was layered editions. Because Link, Zelda, and Animal Crossing, those were the official DLC cups to Mario Kart 8. The original Mario Kart 8. Because when Deluxe came in, those were made part of the base game. And also introduced the Inklings from Splatoon.
Mm-hmm.
You can also, I believe, amiibo costumes are here if you have the Smash amiibos.
Yes, they are, and that
there
includes
are quite a few amiibo costumes.
Well, it also includes third parties like Sonic, Mega Man, Pac-Man, et al.
But those are just like racing uniforms for your amiibo. Mostly,
Yeah.
they're not.
You
they're
don't
not
get to
full
play
skin
as
changes.
Sonic.
But I think the most notable thing about Mario Kart 8, specifically Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, is this is the game that finally catapulted Mario Kart into being Nintendo's premier franchise. I know that's weird to say, but there's a reason why Mario Kart World was selected to be the launch title of the Nintendo Switch 2. And that is just the mega amounts of copies Mario Kart 8, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has sold. Do you want to get? It is the best-selling Nintendo Switch game and the best-selling Wii U game
separately.
Yes, and one of the best-selling video games of all time. Try to guess the number.
14 million?
Oh, no. You are way undershooting that.
Jesus.
75.81 million copies sold for both.
Fuck.
8.46 million sold for the Wii U version, and 67.35 million for the Nintendo Switch. As I said, this is Nintendo's #1 franchise by a country mile.
It kind of makes sense. As a kart racer, even though there's a lot of customization and stuff, it also has really big just pick up and play, especially with friends,
right?
Value, and you can play quicker than Mario Party, and also there's much less chance of murdering people because the worst blue shell barrage in the universe is not as bullshit as some of the bonus stars.
Right. But it should be mentioned that even before this gargantuan number that Mario Kart 8 managed to draw, Mario Kart was still, oftentimes the best selling game on a Nintendo system.
Wouldn't it like the third best on the DS?
Probably. I'd have to look. And it's one of the best-selling Wii games as well.
Right.
Just below all of like the Wii Sports and Wii Fit and that group. So
and the only reason why Wii Sports is on there is because it fucking came packed in most regions.
Right, but I think Wii Sports Resort outsold Mario Kart Wii, but I'd have to look up the actual sales figures. But the overall point is, for a long time, Mario Kart was low key the best selling, not just Mario title, but like Nintendo franchise, going. And it's only like with the Mario Kart 8 did that finally get like actually recognized. And not just with the ascension of Mario Kart World to being the launch game. It's occupying the same space that, your traditional 3D Marios and your big time Zelda games.
A generation or two ago, this would have been another 3D Mario game. This would have been Galaxy 3. This would have been whatever a remake to 64 would be.
I forget, was Galaxy a launch title?
No, it wasn't. Galaxy was a year
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the N64 was the last time not the last time, not including handhelds, the last time that they had a Mario game at launch because they want their Mario games to show off better.
That is incorrect, because the Wii U had New Super Mario Brothers U.
Okay, fair.
But Super Mario 64 was the last time a 3D Mario launched. There's your distinction.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mario is always at the launch.
Yes. Until the GameCube. And then it was Luigi who took the.
And I think
Mario's
the only
technically in
reason
there.
the only reason why it was Luigi's Mansion is because I think Double Dash got delayed.
No, Super Mario Sunshine got delayed.
Sunshine was delayed. That's right.
Yeah. Well, is one of the reasons. It's also Luigi's Mansion is very much a tech demo game, not just for the GameCube's graphical capabilities, but the C-Stick.
Right.
That game was all about demonstrating what the C-Stick could do. It's a big reason why that game's like 4 hours long.
Yeah, it and also Pikmin just showed off the raw power of the GameCube. But that's a topic for another time entirely.
Right. And technically speaking, Pikmin wasn't a launch title. It was a launch window title, about a month out. But it was close enough where, people don't care that much.
They were printing discs as they were launching the console.
Yeah. Melee is the one that's kind of iffy because that came out in December, which was like over a month. But we're getting off track here. Getting back to Mario Kart 8 and its unprecedented role here. That was really cemented with the new batch of DLC. The court, I'm trying to remember what they called them. The booster course passes.
Yeah.
Which was announced in 2022, which was a good 5 years after the game launched.
Yeah, that was kind of a surprise at the time.
Right.
But it makes sense because this is a very good well-selling game and they wanted to, keep it going.
Yeah, like it was doing it's not just that the game sold a lot, this was a evergreen title for the Switch. Hell, like just recently it's like some months it was the best-selling Switch game. People are still buying Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's like Grand Theft Auto 5.
It's still very popular in Europe.
Yeah. So, of course, it made sense to support Mario Kart 8 Deluxe more. That being said, I think we can be honest about the booster course passes and say not the best DLC in the world.
Right.
Now, granted, part of that is because so many of the courses are drawn from Mario Kart on Tour, and Mario Kart's on Tour's courses, a lot of them are shit.
I never played on Tour.
Like playing or
I'm like, just in general, like. It's also like you could clearly see that they got the, I don't know, summer interns or, some of the newer developers working on the booster courses because they lack the flair and polish of the regular courses or even like the 8 DLC courses.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They're also, a lot of them are remakes of old courses, but that's not an excuse because a lot of the existing remakes of old courses got juiced up a lot.
Right.
And I guess they did less. I'll be honest, I only downloaded the booster course pack while we were talking about this, the Mario Kart thing, because I wanted to try it, and then I didn't get a chance to play with it yet because I was busy with other things.
Whoops. But anyway, and we got a lot of courses out of this, if nothing else, and a lot of DLC characters. It's like all the stragglers showed up here. Birdo, PD Piranha, Wiggler, Kamek, Diddy Kong, Funky Kong, Pauline, and Peachette all became playable characters in the booster course packs. Like, And like I said, it's up to this point the ultimate Mario Kart experience, at least in terms of like content.
Right.
In terms of playability, it seems to be one of the more beloved Mario Karts. Though, I know there are individual Mario Karts that have their defenders, have their champions. Like, there are still people who will champion Mario Kart 64 as the best Mario Kart ever. You know, there are people who will still champion the utter chaos of Mario Kart Wii. There will be people who
There's
will
a
praise.
solid argument that Double Dash at least has some unique features that it would be neat to see more.
I think Double Dash was a very marked improvement over 64. There are people who will swear by Mario Kart DS, and like shit like mission mode. The only time they did that in Mario Kart. So pretty much every Mario Kart outside of probably the 2D Mario Karts. Like, I would be hard pressed to find a defender of the original Mario Kart or Super Circuits. Like, I'm sure they exist, but just like I've heard just so many more people praise a 3D Mario Kart versus one of the Mode 7 Mario Karts.
Right.
Well, I mean, with reason. It's hard to do that properly in 2D.
Oh, no doubt. It's probably part of the reason why the kart racing genre really exploded once things got to 3D.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But Mario Kart has been often imitated, seldom outmaneuvered. Like, there are a couple of kart racing games that you could tout as better than Mario Kart.
There are certainly some that are at least close.
Right.
The original Crash Team Racing was quite good.
Well, not just the original, but the remake of Crash Team Racing is up there. Sonic Racing, Sonic All-Star Racing, Transform gets cited a lot. Diddy Kong Racing. There aren't many of them. Like, no one's going to bring up, say, Mega Man Battle and Chase as being better than Mario Kart or Bomberman Kart.
I mean, Kirby's Air Ride may invoke a fist fight, though.
Well, Kirby's Air Ride isn't a kart racer, though.
It depends who you talk to, but yes.
It's like, it's in the same neighborhood, and it's not just related to you're not in a kart, because there are kart racing games that don't take place in a kart. Looking at you like, say, Freaky Flyers, which had airplanes but was totally a kart racer.
Right.
Like Kirby's Air Ride was just, very mechanically different to a kart racing game. Like, but we'd be getting off track here because getting back to Mario Kart 8 here, we do have to address the big thing that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe fixed. And that is, it remembered, a principal addition to kart racing, at least Mario Kart, is the battle mode. And Mario Kart 8 has unequivocally the worst battle mode ever seen in Mario Kart.
Yeah, it's just on the regular tracks, which doesn't work.
Right, like that's not even afterthought. That's a oh shit, that's a 2 minutes before this thing is ready to go gold thought. There's no fucking excuse for it. And thankfully, the deluxe mode actually remembered, oh, hey, people like actual battle modes. It's not just your traditional deathmatch. Like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the 3 balloons, and you use weapons to hit your opponents, and a balloon battle.
Right.
But you've also got the Bomb Blast, which is a variant, and Double Dash favorite, Shine Thief returns. I remember that one being a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, and I'm trying to remember the items that were added into 8 and 8 Deluxe.
Well, 8. I know 8 upgraded the what is it? Wild 7s to Crazy 8s.
Yeah.
Right, the Crazy 8.
Which
This
same deal, except for one more option of thing that can be on the roulette.
Well, this also gave us the great countermeasure to the accursed spiny shell, the super horn.
The super horn, which if you time it exactly right, you can cancel the super horn with it.
Yeah. The boomerang flower, which is there.
Yeah, it's another projectile.
Yep. And the piranha plant.
Which is actually pretty useful. It yanks you forward.
Yeah. Oh right.
It's like a slight. It's not like as full on as like the bullet bill in some of the games where it just like, congratulations, you're supersonic now. You are invincible, and it jerks you forward so far.
Yeah.
I believe you still have some control.
Mm-hmm.
Oh right, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the base Mario Kart 8, like the initial Wii U version, had probably the lamest expansion of characters ever seen in Mario Kart. Because joining the roster were the Koopalings.
Which nice, but that's 7 characters for the price of 1. Maybe 8 if
Yeah.
baby Bowser gets to come. Excuse me, Bowser Jr. They're 2 different people.
Right. Baby Bowser is actually Baby Bowser. And remember this thing? Pink Gold Peach?
Yeah, so I'm not a like, they're another fairly heavy character, but I don't really get the
It's to
appeal
coincide with Mario.
Well, I don't even get the idea of the appeal of Metal Mario that much, but yes.
64 callback.
Yeah.
It's literally all it is.
I'm also not a huge fan of the baby characters, so even though they're additional light characters.
Understandable. The baby characters have well worn out their welcome and need to be
Baby Rose. Well, first off, I'm not sure Baby Rosalina should canonically exist.
That's a topic for another podcast entirely, friend.
Right. But like I said, at least Metal Mario, is a callback to the power up in Super Mario 64. Pink Gold Peach was created for
literally just another. It's Metal Mario for girls,
and was created for this game. Like, Pink Gold Peach did not exist beforehand.
Right.
Anyway, so I think it's safe to say that Nintendo more than got their mileage out of Mario Kart 8. But it's definitely time to see a new contender enter the arena. And we'll talk about that next week. Because as mentioned, Nintendo's unwrapping the details on Mario Kart World tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, this was actually I was planning for all this.
5D chess up in here.
Not that complicated, but yeah, I did intend to talk about the original Mario Kart last week, Mario Kart 8 this week, Mario Kart World next week. It was nice content filling.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so with that in mind, I think that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. So coming up on the week ahead, we do have a new episode of MSP happening. And coming up on Friday, April 18th, we will be having Jose Donaire of Tetsura Games. Once again, we were attempting to interview him about 2 weeks ago, but medical emergencies contravened that. Hopefully, things will go smoothly this time. And coming up on the Sunday reviews, we have reviews of Twilight Monk, Voxile, Skies Above, and Pine, A Story of Loss. So until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.
All right. Alrighty, and we're clear on that.
All right.
I will put the Switch to sleep.
That was a bit of a tough interview to get through.
It was also two in the morning for him.
I know. Like, I'm not blaming him for being half awake, but interviewing somebody who's half awake is a bit difficult. Because
Indeed.
screws in order of length.
All right, the mics are now hot.
All right. Daniel, just to reiterate our process here, in case because of the time, it's not fresh in your memory. We do about 15, 20 minutes of news. We introduce you. The bulk of the show is all about you. And then we have an entertainment section at the end. The show usually runs about 90 minutes, and you are welcome to participate in the entertainment segment. You can commentate on all of our news, respectively, but it might be awkward because I haven't introduced you yet. So
okay, I'll mute until then, and then I might not stick around for the entertainment part because it's going to probably be like nearly midnight, or if not midnight already at that point. So we'll see.
Right.
So
all
I'll
right.
I'll go mute for now.
All right. Okay, sounds good.
Alrighty then. If that is all taken care of, like make sure all the noisemakers have been muted. Because I don't think we want copyrighted music playing during the show.
Yeah, no.
Right. And I'm not going to gag my cat, so.
All right. I think that is ready as we're going to be. Pre-show can go away. No, thank you. Buttons. All right, and then just count me down whenever we're ready.
All right, 1, 2, 3, let's go. All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Moonhawk Studios Presents. I am your host, Mac Paladin. With me in the studio, as always, is my good friend Adam.
Hello.
Kevin lives.
Lives and is now a free bird, if you will.
Uh-oh.
And that's all I'll have to say about that. Although I will say a little bit in just a sec, but yeah.
All right. Depending on the technicals.
The internal screaming is becoming a lot less internal.
How do you internalize screaming? Well, let's try it. And we have Alex here.
That is a thing that I am.
Well, physically on the air, physically present is another matter.
Mm-hmm.
Prove
Anyway,
I'm not tangible in the air.
We have a great show for you tonight. But before we get to the meat of the program, Adam, why don't you start us off with the news?
I guess this would be the potatoes of the show. Anyway.
The bumped wheat, if you will, with a zesty tomato confit.
Right.
French fries and ketchup.
Now I'm getting hungry. Anyway, my news is essentially, the back end of last week's news, and that is setting up all my new electronics. The laptop and the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pleased to say, I'm done with all the downloading, the adjusting, the making sure the AI components are dead and buried. Look, it's not just the Copilot, it's the shit on the mobile phones.
Mm-hmm.
That we worry about
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So, anyway, as I said, everything is, for lack of a better term, up and running. And up to my satisfaction, mainly because I downloaded that thing Petty sent me that made Windows 11 a lot more like Windows 10.
Mm-hmm. Or you can make it be Windows 7 if you don't want all the bullshit.
The thing is, I haven't used Windows 7 in a very long time, so I just figured I would set it to the thing that I was just using.
No, that's valid.
Anyway, Kevin, over to whatever you want to expound about.
Let's just say that I need to find something else to do going forward. and you can take it as you want, take it as you like. Need to find something else to do. I need to find a new thing to do during the week.
Yeah. Well, you're not leaving us currently.
No, not in terms of this show, but in terms
The way
of
you made it sound like you were leaving the show. That's why I had to mention that.
Not the show. Not the show. Not the show.
Kevin warned us
Yes,
that
career.
employment opportunities have changed.
Yes, career. In terms of a career, yes, that's that. And I don't want to go into full details and specifics because I want to move on, as it were. So, yeah. Other than that, which is a pretty big development, regardless. But other than that, nothing else happening around here. Petty, tell us your story.
Honestly, before this afternoon, the weekend was pretty alright, or the week was pretty alright. 3:00, my mom calls my sister and informs her that her job has fired her.
Oh, no.
We honestly, the thing we think happened is they're firing mom to make room for a lady who had a child about 2 months ago. So they're firing mom to make room for her. The messed up thing is the lady who was gone for 2 months wasn't gone FMLA. By all rights, she should have been fired 2 weeks ago. So, because she's friends with the manager, my mom gets fired, and she gets to basically take my mom's job. But she had the lady who's coming to basically take my mom's job has 3 write-ups. Mom had 1 disciplinary issue where they made her lose 1 day of pay, and she had some minor mistakes that she was asking them to help retrain her, as one does if they're having issues with their workplace. And instead they chose to fire her. The issue is my mom
Companies don't have the time and money to train their employees anymore. I don't know what you expected.
The thing that sucks is my mom is in her mid to late 50s. So, they can't say age discrimination is a thing. Age discrimination is very much a thing as long as they don't publicly say it's age discrimination. So it's going to be a lot harder for mom to find a job compared to someone who's in their early 20s and is willing to work for barely above minimum wage. So that's going to be an issue. Hopefully it can get handled swiftly. A local warehouse is looking for front desk help. And that's basically what mom was doing at where she previously worked. So hopefully she can have a job by Monday, basically. Yeah. Let's see, and that's pretty much the big thing. I mean, the only other thing that happened is I was told that from the accident that I had back in January, basically it re-aggravated my arthritis. So they gave me a steroid injection and basically told me, I hope it helps. There's not a lot we can do for another 15 years to old enough for a knee replacement. So that's fun. Wait, no, opposite of fun. That sucks.
They can't do that thing where they inject silicone into it?
They actually tried the gel stuff. It caused more pain.
Oh.
Yeah, I was seriously about to just break my knee with a wrench. It was so bad. So yeah, no, none of those silicone gel things.
Well, shoot.
So yeah, that was unfortunate. But yeah, I think that's all for me.
Gallix, what you got?
Nothing too exciting going on over here. I picked up my new laptop earlier this week. I haven't really turned it on to set it up yet because I'm anticipating needing to take a certain amount of time to delete all of the AI features and get everything set up the way I like. But that's good because, like I said last time, my old laptop not doing so hot. This past weekend turned out to have a Splatfest that I was barely alert to in time to participate, but I did, and that's good because I was on Team Night, and Team Night won. Probably somewhat unsurprisingly, because this is a video game tournament, and the thing was how many or what time of day do you get the most stuff done, with the choices being morning, afternoon, and night. There were kind of a lot of mirror matches, and I was wondering if it wasn't just because this is kind of self-selecting for people who play at the same time.
Yeah, it's something gamer predilection and whatnot.
But also, Team Night was the most popular team, so you got the more mirror matches that way too. And also, Sunday was my birthday, so I'm 39 now. Other than that, not too much going on.
All right. Well, the solar saga continues.
Yeah, we do continue to go around the sun, yes.
Despite a certain somebody's best efforts to crash us into it. Spent the entire weekend trying to get the rent. It was a real slow start to last week, and I'm having a similar problem this week, to where it's a little bit of a slow start. And I did like 4 12-hour days in a row before tapping out and requesting financial aid, which I have partially paid back already, but that's neither here nor there. Before the show, I was setting up the replacement power outlets that I'm going to be using in the streaming room, which also involves finding, shall we say, hidden ancient cat mess treasure.
Oh, fine.
Behind bookcases and under desks. And cleaning that, so that was exciting. Yeah, just reorganizing some stuff, to try to make the power distribution setup that I'm creating as efficient as possible, which is always a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been in the 90s for the past several days. Luckily, I'm a garden level apartment that is heavily shaded. As I said in the pre-show, I found some aluminum shed panels out in the wild, is the expression I will use. One of which has a handle and hinges on it that I'm going to use to create a folding shade for my streaming bedroom window. I get some 2x4s, make another miter to go with the solar panels, and then kind of put it so that way I can use it as a shutter for the back window. I think that will cool things down considerably, because then it'll be more reflective than absorbing. The metal on the outside, I think, will reflect the heat more than the black curtains on the inside, which keep absorbing heat. And I can use it as a sort of awning over that window as well. I've got plans. Stuff's happening, thinking about things, using the old gourd, frying the bacon grease that constitutes the gray matter in my skull, What else is going on? It's interesting. Not a whole hell of a lot. I mean, What?
No, just what's the whole what's going on that's interesting.
Because what I'm talking about is debatable at best to some people out there.
Fair.
I'm on an ADHD journey. Meanwhile, the Secretary of Health and Human Services has basically just said, well, we got to get rid of all these ADHD and autism people because obviously it's being caused by, aliens, chemtrails or something. I don't even know what the hell he's talking about. He got up on the podium and it's just, don't you have brain worms, dude? I think you're the last person on earth who should be, and he's over there, talking like, those guys over at Autism Speaks really are making a whole hell of a lot of sense. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, here we go. Which coincides with that fantastic Saturday Night Live cold open where he's like, he says, yeah, people are calling me a bit of a messiah because of the mess I made. Which I thought was rather clever. And I hope to God it was off the cuff and not scripted, because that would make it even better. But yeah, it's just, while we're sitting here having people legislated off the planet and being told that our diseases are curable if we just clean up our diet and work harder, get more vitamin D and E or something. Beyond that, it's just trying to survive that daily onslaught. You're dealing with neurodivergent people who are already on the precipice as it is, with just trying to put it politely, keep it together. Just existing. And then we have to put up with this bullshit.
Yep.
The Department of Education, speaking of AI, the Department of Education wants to smother our kids with A1 steak sauce because Linda McGovern.
Still better than using AI.
Right? I don't know. Threatening to barbecue our children is not exactly not a heartwarming prospect.
We get them steak burgers.
Yeah. State mandated, no less. So yeah, it's just the world in review is everything's on fire, and we're all in a drought.
Yeah. Well,
how's Sunny?
I don't have anything uplifting to lead into this next segment, so I'm just filibustering.
Yeah.
to fill time. We started at 11 after, 12 after, so let me ramble on for 2 more minutes here, or not.
Yeah.
Let's go right to the main event. So tonight we have the return of Daniel Calvin, and he is here to talk about his upcoming Kickstarter for American Dreams 1 through 6, launching April 22nd. Daniel, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who may have forgotten, or for those who are new to our program, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do once again.
I'm Daniel Calvin. I'm a Brooklyn-based comic book writer. Mostly it's for American Dreams, which is going to Kickstarter again next week. I'm also known for Night Wrath, Rook and Knight, Sherlock Holmes, The Phantom Masquerade, and I've been in a few comic anthologies, including the Rigo-nominated Cthulhu Invades Wonderland.
Ooh. Nice.
Thanks.
All right. Now we got the introductions out of the way. Adam, you're up.
All right. So, if I'm remembering from our last discussion, I think when we had you on the program last was around the time when American Dreams issue 4 was in development.
Right. Wow.
Okay. Everything okay over there?
Yeah, they're saying wow, it's been that long.
Right. So it would behoove me to ask what has occurred in the American Dreams comic since that, or indeed from issue 4 to issue 6.
Well, I believe it was like American Dreams issues 4 and 5. I think it was like 2 and it ended up being both 4 and 5. So if you remember from 4 and 5, Liberty, our main character of American Dreams, the Jewish immigrant Jake Gold, who got empowered by an experiment that went haywire, had to go up against a now empowered anti-Semite going by the name of Amalek, who was hell-bent on basically destroying the Jewish enclave of the Lower East Side of Manhattan in 1900s New York.
Yes, I think I remember this.
Yeah. Thankfully, victorious. And issue 6 picks up a little bit, like a month or so afterwards, around Memorial, will be equivalent of Memorial Day then, which was called Remembrance Day. And back then. And that, of course, there's a parade planned and everything, but some people have, ill intentions towards some of the things being celebrated at that parade and some of the people taking part in it.
Right. You sent me a rough cut of American Dream 6, and it's a curious choice. Since I'm not sure if you want certain things revealed or not, but let's just say ghosts of the past, of the Civil War rise up.
Yes, because you have to remember this is literally taking place 35 years after the end of the Civil War, and New York Manhattan especially has a very complex relationship with the Civil War because while what was then the city of Brooklyn, my borough, was very pro-union, what was then just New York City, was just then Manhattan, was very mixed. You had very pro-union people, but they also had some Confederate sympathizers because New York profited from the cotton trade. Also, it's the site of the draft riots, which was one of the biggest race riots in American history, which you might remember if you've seen Gangs of New York, the big riot that takes place during the climax of that film.
I have seen that. And yeah, the draft riots were very nasty business. Though I'm not sure how Confederate sympathizing any part of New York would have extended to like slavery, but a lot of that's having to do with economic factors.
Right.
That's probably beyond the scope of what we're talking about.
If
here.
nothing else, they could probably said to be not be enough against it.
Right. This is like the know nothings stronghold, if I recall. But this was 35 years before the events of this comic. Yeah. We're dealing though more with people who want to what we would call a neo-Confederate start chaos in this issue.
Right. And we also get President Teddy Roosevelt.
Well, he's not president at this point. He's just governor at this point.
Oh, right. It's before the assassination of McKinley.
Right. This is the election year where Roosevelt becomes vice president, and McKinley would be assassinated the following year.
It is good to know.
But yeah, it's another big historical person who becomes part of our supporting cast.
And how do I put this? What developments befall our hero during this issue?
Well, he'll have to deal with these neo-Confederates deciding to cause chaos at this parade, and their plan has ties back to one of our villains we introduced in the first arc of American Dreams. That's issues 1 through 5, which also got a store release through Band of Bards, so you can get the comics right now from Band of Bards as well. But he also introduces new allies as well in this issue. And it's really funny because originally my plan for this second arc was completely different. And then my late editor, LaShawn Colvin, quoted me on a podcast we were both on, and she was like, Daniel, you have all these great characters, but they're not as diverse as I would like. And I'm like, I thought to it a second, like, you're right. I scratched the entire arc I had planned and rewrote it because I wanted to add new diverse characters to show the diversity of New York and America, as well as more diverse points of view.
And what did that entail?
Well, putting in more people of color in this case, because even I had to admit my first arc is very, very pale, for lack of a better word.
Right.
In terms of characters. So, and LaShawn, who was a black woman, read the first 3 issues of this new arc and she loved them. And she would say, this works, this doesn't, and I would go back and fix it. And she's like, this works. And her assistant editor, who's now the main editor, Andrea, does the same thing. So you gotta make sure I'm, not being insulting to, communities that are not my own. And so I have to double check just to make sure with some, sensitivity readers and editors, just to be on the safe side.
It is always a balancing act there.
Yeah.
Like, so is it safe to say that American Dreams will be continuing beyond issue 6?
Art through issue 10 is already done. Black and white art through issue 10 is already done.
Okay. Because that's
issue
another thing.
Is already complete. Issue 8 is getting colored right now.
Because, like I said, I remember from last time you mentioned like everything up to this issue was set in stone.
Right.
So. That is good to hear.
Yeah.
And are you still planning on having it be like 25 issues, if I'm remembering correctly?
At least 25. I can't if I go any further. I'm still having to plan. I still have to plan out the next arc as well. I have to plan out arc 3 already. And it's also becoming part of this expanded kind of like hero universe I've dubbed the Liberty Verse, because I released Night Wrath, I want to say during COVID, Night Wrath 1. And I did Rook and Knight 1 in 2023, and they all connect either overtly or not so overtly to American Dreams.
So in the same world?
Yes. Same world, but maybe later on the timeline. Yeah. But familiar faces will show up, or have shown up, depending on which of the comics you read.
Right. And as far as it's worth asking how you got hooked up with Band of Bards, because I don't think that was in place last time we talked to you.
No. So I reached out to Band of Bards about something else entirely. It was a fantasy idea I had. And then, we went our separate ways. And then I was doing the Kickstarter for, the self-published trade in, I want to say, 2022, give or take. And Amelia, I was at Terrificon in Connecticut. And my friend flew in from the UK to help me out, and I had 2 other friends at the table next to me. And we're just chatting as I'm, doing the sales, and I get an email from Band of Bards. I'm like, as it's American Dreams or something like that on the subject line. And it basically said, do you want us to, once you're done with the trade, do you want us to publish American Dreams and put into stores? And I guess I must have froze or had a funny look on my face for a second. So my buddy Reese turns to me and goes, Daniel, what's wrong? I show him. I showed my friends Kat and Phil. And I'm like, I immediately write back, I have to talk to you guys after this convention, but yes. And then I called my folks saying, we might have just publishing a pickup deal.
Well, neat.
And they've been really supportive of the book.
Like, so I suppose this leads to the Kickstarter. What exactly are you looking to fund with the first 6 issues of American Dream with this Kickstarter?
So it's to have some printing of the issue 6. I do have some 1 for 5 left, but also to print new copies of 1 for 5, print new copies of the trade, make back some of the money I spent producing this stuff. But we have a nice goal of $3,000. Which I think we'll definitely meet. And people can get the books digitally. They can get them physically. They can do catch-up tiers. They can read, pick up the other copies of the Libertyverse books like Night Raft and Rook and Knight, issues 1. And we have some nice little fun bundles for everyone.
And are those represented in the tiers?
Yes.
All right, so I suppose it'd be worth giving us the rundown of, what your specific tiers are offering.
Yep, give me a second. I have to pull it up from the draft because,
Mhm.
yeah, because this is how it all works. 1
Right.
second. It's
Well,
not
we are no-
live to the 22nd, folks. I don't know when this is actually broadcast.
Oh, we're broadcasting right now.
Okay, so guys, it starts on Tuesday, next Tuesday, a week from yesterday. So we have a digital PDF where you can get issue 6. That's your straight up issue 6 if you've gotten the past books in PDF. We have physical copies of issue 6 as well. We have an A cover, a B cover, and our first ever foil cover for American Dreams as well, by Fabrice Sapolsky, who you guys might know as the creator of Spider-Man Noir.
Oh.
So we have our main covers by Dodie and Tebby and Warnia, our main team on American Dreams. Rolly Akbar did our main variant. Oh, I should also point out, if you buy a physical copy, you get the digital copy for free as a bonus. We have a digital pack so you can pick up all the #1 issues of American Dreams, Rook and Knight, and Night Wrath. You can pick up digital copies of the trade plus the digital copy of issue 6. We got physical bundles of issue 1. We got physical bundles of just issue 6, so you can get every cover. You get the whole Libertyverse story so far, digitally and physically. And also you can get everything from American Dreams in single issues.
So, with those physical issues, are you shipping in North America or internationally as well?
We are trying. My plan right now is to ship internationally. We have but it's we have to keep in mind, things unfortunately do fluctuate. So hopefully,
That's
shipping right. But I've had to keep an eye on things because shipping is crazy, and also you've pointed out earlier in the show, the current political situation is kind of crazy.
I'm like, that's a nice way of putting it, especially when it comes to international shipping.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I think it was announced today that Hong Kong is now no longer shipping to the United States because of the tariffs.
Yeah. I do point out I use an American printer. Yeah.
I'm like, which will be helpful in a few months when what is it called? Das Minimus ends.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm assuming the Kickstarter will last the standard 30 days.
Correct.
Okay. And I think you were saying that you were asking for 3,000.
Correct.
All right. Right then. So it sounds like pretty typical comic Kickstarter. I see these things go.
Basically, I figured, I've gotten this is my 6th Kickstarter I think I've done, and by this point I basically have my preferences of how I like things to go for them, and to keep things relatively simple. I don't do like a lot of the tchotchkes or T-shirts a lot of people do, because that's more costs, and they don't all fit in Gemini binder, Gemini packaging.
Okay.
Which I want to point out, always use Gemini mailer if possible when mailing out comics, because it's so much more protective.
And well, let me see here. Probably a good time to switch tracks to something completely different. And that is the other thing you sent over to me today or yesterday, within the last 24 hours. And that is the Sherlock Holmes versus the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, that was our Kickstarter from last year.
So I suppose the first question is why? Why have Sherlock Holmes face off against the Phantom of the Opera?
Oh, I know
Well,
this
then-
one. They're both public domain.
It helps. I'm actually a fan of both characters, and while people have done Phantom Holmes pastiches, which is just taking Sherlock Holmes and just dumping him in the events of the novel, I want to point out the novel is public domain, not the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. The novel.
Actually, in the novel particularly, it would be interesting to have an actual skilled detective involved to try to pick apart how the heck Eric is doing all that shit.
Well, that's why the character of the Persian's in there, but that character's usually cut from almost every adaptation of the story.
Because all he's there for is be racial stereotype and say keep your hands at the level of your eye.
And be the info dump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Though, for a early 20th century pulp novel, they treat him with a lot more care than some people do now. But my thought pattern was, let's make this more of a sequel to Phantom of the Opera. And not the Andrew Lloyd Webber one.
Yeah, no, not that sequel.
No, not that sequel. Though I did, during the promotion for this issue, I jokingly said the tagline is "Obsession never dies," which is true, but it's also like kind of the theme of this storyline of that we're doing. It's planned to be like a 5-issue mini, originally a 6-issue, but then I decided to scale it down a little bit for sanity's sake and for pitching's sake. In all honesty, but like my thought pattern was, how would this work? Is it more of a sequel to Family Opera, and how would Sherlock Holmes work? And then, of course, the pieces start putting together in my head, and it's like you need to somehow bring Earl and Christine in. I said they probably have a son at this point, which I had to name Philippe because Gustav was already taken. Thank you, Lloyd Webber. But I lampshaded by making him Philippe Gustave de Chagny. But so someone has kidnapped Earl and Christine's son. So it's up to Sherlock to solve the case. And of course, the Phantom is involved, so we have to figure out how the hell he survived the end of the original novel, because if you read the original novel, he dies. So how is he still alive? That's answered in issue 2. Hint. But in issue 1, it's basically our setup of showing how Christine and Raul are still living kind of in fear of the possibility that the Phantoms could still be around. And Raul and his son, relationship with his son, isn't always the best. Meanwhile, Sherlock has been back from the dead, so to speak, roughly 6 months from when we start the story, and he's back on his infamous cocaine solution of the famous 7.5%. And so Watson's worried because Holmes is just getting high all the time, and unfortunately, Holmes is also seeing hallucinations of Moriarty. So another theme of this story, of this version of this Holmes Phantom crossover, is ghosts of the literal and metaphorical kind.
Ah, so more than one person is obsessed with stuff.
Yes. And not only that, there's another famous literary character in this issue, which this issue's been out for a few months, so I'll reveal what it is. It's the Artful Dodger from Oliver Twist, but now as a older man, because it's been 50, 60 years since the events of Oliver Twist. Give or take. So he's another supporting character.
Mhm.
And he's connected to our mysterious kidnapper, whoever that may be. I'm not saying.
I'm like, and why include the Artful Dodger into this? Are we looking at the beginnings of the new League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
No, not really. It's me just being being me more of my English major self and wanting to include some fun, additional literary cameos and fun. But I think that's the last real one I'm giving a nod to, at least as an in-person character in this storyline. Other characters may be mentioned in passing or in background clues, but it's not going to be a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. But I do want to point out it's called the Crimson Casebook of Sherlock Holmes as the overarching thing. There will be other tales eventually with some darker antagonists.
That just makes me think Edgar Allan Poe is going to show up.
No, but Edgar Allan Poe's long dead at this point, historically.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of the map.
I do have my next, after the Phantom, I do have an idea of which character I wanted Holmes to go up against next.
And how long of a run is this grand crossover supposed to last?
Well, for Holmes versus the Phantom, it'll be 5 issues.
Okay.
And if I can do sequels, we'll see how that goes.
Well, how's issue 1 been doing so far?
Issue 1's been doing well. We have nearly 1,000 views on Global Comics, I think, so far, and those who have read the comic from the Kickstarter have really enjoyed it.
Are you planning on doing future Kickstarters for, I don't know, issue 2 or issue 3 or something like that?
I just need to get the artist started on it. That's the only thing holding me back. Everything through issue 3 is written, and issue 4 and 5 has been outlined. So I'm a little ahead of the curve.
That's good. So presumably it would be issue 4 and 5 that would be looking for the funding.
Well, I have to fund 2 and 3 first, but I still have to write 4 and 5.
Okay.
But yeah, hopefully I can get issue 2 done in the next year or so, and then get that onto Kickstarter. We'll see. I also pitched it to a couple other places, so maybe that will change my strategy when the time comes, depending on what I hear back.
All right. And let me see. So tell us a bit about the anthologies you worked on.
Okay, I did Project Big Hype. That was the first one I really did. God, that was during probably around even before COVID started, or just around COVID starting. I wrote a kind of a adventurer story about a kid sneak thief in like a steampunk 19th century Cairo, stealing back like an Eye of Horus to return to a museum in Cairo. That was the first one. And then I got invited to do Cthulhu Invades Wonderland because I had pitched a short for Cthulhu Invades Oz, which was the first of that series, and I didn't get in. But the rest of like something I pitched because Travis Gibb invited me to do um Cthulhu Invades Wonderland. I did the Dodo story, and then that whole anthology was up for a Ringo. And then I also did a short for my friend Charlie McElvey's Spire Squirrel anthology. I did a short story involving his character Damocles, I believe. And after that, most recently, I did again for Travis Gibbs, Orange Cone Productions, Holiday Spirits Volume 3, where I did a Hanukkah story. That was kind of like I said, it's Bubby meets Home Alone. Basically, imagine if what's the name of the main character from Home Alone? Basically, imagine him as a Jewish grandmother taking on a burglar during Hanukkah.
Kevin McAllister?
Yeah. Kevin McAllister about the Jewish grandmother and she's taking down a burglar during Hanukkah. And it's played more like a horror film. Like it's really funny that we're doing a tournament between two ideas. One is like that was like my third idea I had come up with to pitch. Because originally I was thinking like snow golems being sent after a unrepentant Nazi, and like no, that seems a little like it would have been done. And all of a sudden my brain went, Bubby is Home Alone, and that's where the light bulb went off, and I went, that will work. And I most recently did what's been drawn and everything for Kurt Belcher, his Storage Wars anthology. I did another Jewish influenced horror short for that, and I might have another Phantom of the Opera related story somewhere soon. Another anthology, but I'm not saying which one yet because I don't think it's been publicly announced.
And are you working on any anthologies now?
I've submitted to a couple anthologies now, but I'm also starting to set up a anthology of my own. I'm doing a first issue of a Jewish because what I would do is issues first and then collect it as a book of Jewish comic book stories.
Trying to think of the right way to frame the question here. I'm like, and that is, what are you looking to hone in on in terms of Jewishness with this anthology?
Just like tales of various Jewish perspectives and celebrating Jewish life and culture and tradition and.
Okay, so some of the aspects of the Jews as a culture.
Right. Not just as a religion, because we are also an ethnic group.
Right. Okay, that does sound interesting. And well, I imagine you have a segment lined up for your own anthology.
May not for this first issue, but I do want to do something for one of these eventually for when we have, by the time we are ready to actually do a combined edition, because we're doing this in issues first, and I don't want to be like that guy saying, "Hey, it's the first issue of something I'm one of the showrunners for. I want to have the first issue." That's a little self-serving, and I want others to share first. But if it's room for it in this first issue, I might supply something.
And do you have anyone lined up for this anthology yet?
Not yet. It's the first time I've been talking about it more publicly. That it's being done. We are still putting together some of the finer print. We have reached out to some people, and some people have reached out to us, but we haven't made any firm decisions yet.
Okay.
But we probably will make some announcements soon-ish.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's worth asking, are you working on any sort of like one-shots, new comics that we haven't talked about yet?
Oh God, I work on so much. I've actually had to tell myself I have to start shutting things down a little bit, just for my own sanity, and my bank account. Well, what have I been working on? I'm working on another Jewish story about the World War II story about a Jewish super soldier that's being drawn by Marcelo Muller. I started a story called Time Lost, which is about a bunch of soldiers and warriors throughout time being kidnapped by a malevolent demigod to another plane, basically to survive for his own amusement. I have a first issue of that already drawn in color that needs to be finished, be lettered. Start a new project called Templar, which is about a malevolent vigilante superhero that belongs to kind of a quasi cult, who's been locked up in an insane asylum pending if he's deemed fit to stand trial. And that might just put the hospital in a lot of danger. And what else have I been working on? I'm working on a martial arts thing that's kind of like a tribute to 1980s beat 'em up comics called Beat 'em Up. Literally, that's what it's called. And I'm working on kind of like a Greek myth adventure fantasy series called Sword of Olympus. And like I said, I got a lot of stuff on the fire. Plus, I got, I have to get American Dreams Arc 2 finished, and I have to get Night Ref and Rookie Night 2s, respectively, out, drawn, colored, and inked and done. And I'm doing a lot of juggling.
So certainly sounds if nothing else, you've got a lot on your plate at any given moment in time. Like
basically, yeah.
Right. Right. So I think I've run through my questions. See if anyone else here has anything further for you.
I think I'm good.
I'm good.
I am also good.
All right. As always, Daniel, aside from the Kickstarter, anything else, appearances or items you'd like to promote before we say good evening?
Yes. Hold on. I'll be at the Brooklyn Independent Comics. What do they call it? The Brooklyn Independent Comics Showcase next weekend at Industry City in Brooklyn, and I'll be at CradleCon in Long Island next month.
All right.
Which is at the Cradle of Aviation Museum in Garden City.
There we go. All right. Well, it was a pleasure having you on the program again, and we thank you for taking the time to come and visit with us for a little while, and we'll keep in touch in case there's further developments.
Will do. Thank you for having me on.
All right.
Night all.
All right. Now it's time for entertainment news.
All right.
Adam, time to unleash the fury again.
Fury is a good word to use this week. Like, oh boy, because first we have to talk about Avatar. Specifically, The Last Airbender. More specifically, the live action Airbender program on Netflix.
Well, no such thing. Doesn't exist. I don't know what you're talking about.
There is no war in Bossing
exists.
Say.
Well, you would like to think that, but
well, Kevin, I think you're chomping at the bit to talk about this. So why don't you enlighten the folks?
Well, apparently it's come out in an interview. I forgot what the actual outlet was with the actress who's going to play Toph in the adaptation. And apparently she said that in order to make the character more human, because, you know, it was a cartoon, they're apparently going to make her a bit more feminine.
Oh boy.
That would the entire okay. Aside from her being a blind earthbender, the entire point was that this is a character who, when she found that she had been cast as a large muscular man in the story of their adventures, she was super hyped about that.
Yes. And,
also, she's being cast older.
And older, yeah, older, that too, yes. Yes.
Okay, the older I can kind of see, just because it'd be hard for someone to portray that young in a live-action series.
Yeah, like a live-action 10-year-old is a much taller order, especially in a series like Avatar.
Especially if they want to maintain the blind aspect. It's a lot easier for a older actor to portray blind than someone who's actually 10.
So the TikToks are true. We learned absolutely nothing from The Last of Us.
I was going to say we learned nothing from the M. Night Shyamalan Avatar movie, but...
No, we learned something.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but...
We at least learned not to cast aggressively white people as
that a faithful adaptation,
indigenous people.
Yeah, there. So we learned nothing from the fact that a faithful, true to the video game and or source material TV series being wildly popular means nothing. And we should just all so that way we can have kids with boob windows and hip slits.
I'm like, how do I put this? There's a lot of debate in terms of, adaptation, because, if you're doing a shot-for-shot adaptational work, why? Why do that? Like,
Well, then tell a different story with the same characters, but you don't have to fundamentally change who they are.
So that's what I want to talk about here, because this, not the rumors, but the fandom are looking at this with curious eyes, concerned eyes, and not just because they might be misreading the entirety of Toph's character. I'm going to come out and say it, love triangle. Those words have been thrown around because...
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Because since this is fucking Avatar, so much of the conversation has been around the fucking shipping. And not just this latest development, by the way. Oh, no. A lot of Season 1's changes and developments has been fueling a couple of fires.
So gross, as always.
Well, yes, because the specific fire I'm referring to is Zuko and Katara, the ship that will not die.
Zutara, even though it's very damn clear that she and Aang got together.
Also, it's very clear that if those two were left alone in a room together, they would murder each other. There would be no lovey-dovey. It would be violence.
No, they were left in a room together and nothing fucking happened.
Let's be clear about that. That wasn't that bad eventually, but
I mean, it depends on what part of the series.
Yeah,
I suppose it's worth going into a bit as to why this ship continues to live on. I'm like, I don't want to.
People do like a bad boy.
Well, yes, that's that's part of it. I'm like, but it's not just people like the bad boy. The target demographic of the original Avatar series really liked Zuko. And there's another aspect here that doesn't get.
Zuko's a good character. It's okay to like Zuko, but Katara doesn't like him that much.
Well, there's another aspect. There's two other aspects here that need to be taken into consideration here, and that is the overall shipping. Whatchamacallit, Aang and Katara versus Zuko and Katara. Okay, on the face of it, Aang and Katara, that's white bread. That's, the thing you expect to happen. Because
also, Aang is significantly younger than her, iceberg notwithstanding, and is kind of silly.
I said on the surface, when you look at it deeper, it's actually a very awkward pairing, and this is why Aang and Katara, nobody looks to them as a couple. Put it to you this way: they put out a comic book featuring Korosami. They did no such thing with Aang and Katara. Nobody gave a shit that they are a coupling.
I guess the assumption is after the battle with Firelord, Aang started to grow up, and that's when Katara fell for him, is what I'm assuming happened.
I don't know. They were shown at least kind of liking each other by the end of the series, but yeah.
More to the point, Zutara is the spice of life. It's dark, it's dangerous, it's forbidden passion. Very attractive to teenage girls. And there's another aspect that a lot of people have never considered because it's not a white-born viewpoint. I only saw this, when a person of color reflected on why they liked Zutara. It's because especially in the year 2005, there weren't a lot of brown girls in animation.
That's true.
So a lot of people saw themselves in Katara, literally. They put them, they did the cipher thing. And they've desired Zuko because, as you said, everyone likes a bad boy.
Yeah, a 15-year-old bad boy has many more attractive qualities than a 12-year-old goofball.
And not just that, he's fixable. To complete the fantasy.
I can fix him. Yes. That's the actual thing Tom used. That's the word used, yes.
I'm with you on that, but it is such a thing.
I know it's a thing, but God, do I hate it.
Yeah. And with the live action Avatar series, they have been much more focused on either Zutara or I'm trying to remember the pairing name
for
Sokka and Zuko.
Oh God,
Yeah, it doesn't come up much, but they have apparently those people have seen the signs.
Yeah, I do not know the exact term either, but I know for a fact that they're shipped hard too. Yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
What's wrong with people?
Yeah.
I know, they were at least getting along better.
Yeah.
Because kids can't just be kids in a story. They got to eventually be adults that are fuckable. That's the important thing here.
Look, this is the Avatar fandom. This is just part of the fucking territory.
Dude, this is every fandom, and it holds true.
It's a young adult story that people are going to be obsessed on the shipping.
Yeah.
We try to say things like, "Oh, nobody hates Star Wars or Star Trek as much as its fans," but the truth of the matter is that it's true of all fandoms. Like nobody hates on the material more than the fandom does. And nobody has more despicable ideas about what should be done than the so-called actual fans of the franchise.
I am very well aware of that. But
Mhm.
this is what has to be dealt with. Anyway, like I said, we could continue going down this rabbit hole, but I think we're far down enough for anyone's.
I can't see the sun anymore,
I mean-
Adam. Please pull up. Pull up.
Oh,
It's flying too high. The wings are melting.
but after a certain point, you want to be extinguished.
We've reached peak Icarus factor.
Yes. I'm like, anyway, in completely other news, Homestar Runner has turned 25 years old.
Mm.
I saw that video.
That
Huh.
sound you're hearing is bones breaking due to brittleness.
Yeah.
I have a complaint to register.
Oh no.
Go ahead.
Actually, which is that I watched that video and then I I attempted to go to homestarrunnerinsert.com 25 times and it didn't go anywhere, and I expect a higher level of commitment to the bit from Homestar Runner.
Give it a bit of time and they'll actually do it. Like, they actually completed that Stinko Man 20XT6 game after like 20 years.
Oh Lord.
Look, I will, like, they will commit to a bit if they want to.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm slightly it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But I really was hoping that they would, like, if they're gonna have Homestar jokingly go to .com, whatever, make that a thing.
Right.
Even if it doesn't even redirect to their main page.
Mm.
I just remember the fact that Homestar Runner was such a integral part of this show early in the days, because we were constantly commentating on that.
I mean, Homestar Runner was probably the most formative cartoon of the pre-YouTube internet.
Especially
Like,
for a lot of millennials
Certainly
and
one
whatnot.
of them. I know it
like,
was mine.
Yeah, like,
Don't touch that, flippity blow. What's up, flippity blow?
memories. Like, but even in semi-retirement, Homestar Runner.
And
You dropped there, Adam.
that whole thing got even in retirement. Homestar
Even in semi-retirement, Homestar Runner can still deliver.
There we go.
Yeah. Anyway, moving over to Marvel news. Daredevil Born Again Season 2 will arrive in March 2026. So, did anyone else here actually watch Season 1?
I don't have sufficient power to binge watch it. I plugged in the mini fridge just now and the lights went out. Soon I will catch up with it.
Like, I have mixed feelings about the first season. Like, you can certainly tell it was a troubled production, especially early on, when it feels a lot more like an episode of Suits or Law and Order than, Daredevil. Like,
and yet it's still better received than Captain America: Brave New World.
Didn't that draw money or something? Like, I don't know.
It's like 400. It's at $412 million. So the word disappointing is being bandied about since it's going to pretty much peter out below Shang-Chi.
And
really, I thought Daredevil was doing okay, or was at least kind of popular.
No, Daredevil. We're not talking about Daredevil. We're talking about Captain America: New World Order.
Oh,
Daredevil Daredevil hasn't gotten a movie yet, and I'm not sure Daredevil ever will.
That's true. I suppose having a popular TV series doesn't actually count for much.
Well, it's more the legal issue surrounding Wilson Fisk. They can't use Kingpin in the movies.
Right.
That's Sony territory.
Yeah.
Because Kingpin is more Spider-Man's rogue gallery than.
Yeah.
Well, he's a shared rogue. It's the same thing that
was in the Spider-Verse movies. So
yeah, it's the same thing that happened to the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver when Fox owned the X-Men stuff. Like they were enough of a character in both the Avengers and X-Men to appear in both.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the situation with Kingpin. You know, he's enough of a Daredevil villain to appear in some stuff, but he's also originated from the Spider-Man comics. So
yeah, because go figure, he's the kingpin of crime in New York City, the city in which many different Marvel comics take place.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Largely because that's where Marvel was originally based.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And still is.
Yeah, and unlike DC, which really likes using fictional cities, Marvel
based on real cities.
Yes. Sometimes
Metropolis being New York and Gotham being Newark, New Jersey.
Well,
except when Gotham is New York, which it sometimes is.
Yeah,
and Metropolis is sometimes Washington D.C. or something.
Well, in the Christopher Reeve movies, they had the Statue of Liberty, so it was definitely New York City.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I know, but it varies.
Okay, yeah. Technically speaking, Metropolis is supposed to be New York City during the day. Gotham City is New York City at night. Sometimes Metropolis is L.A. Sometimes it's fucking Kansas. Sometimes, it's this. Sometimes that. Ditto with Gotham. Like that's
I think it's only Kansas when they want non-super. I think it's only Kansas when they want non-Superman people to be able to go back and forth in less than a day.
Right.
Yeah.
Between there and Smallville.
Yeah.
And Kansas City is in Missouri. I'll say it a third time.
Yeah. Well, there is actually Kansas City, Kansas. There are 2 Kansas cities.
Doesn't it sit on the border?
Roughly, yeah.
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 The bigger part that people care about is in Missouri.
Yes.
Make of that what you will.
Get me some KC style cracker pizza.
Like the Kansas City Chiefs are in Missouri. They're on the Missouri side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, over to Netflix with a unusual release, as they are going to be handling Genndy Tartakovsky's R-rated animated movie Fix. First time that Netflix has worked with Tartakovsky, as usually they're working with Warner Brothers or Sony.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say specifically it's because of the fact that it's a Sony routine.
Like, yeah, Netflix has bought in some Sony movies over the years.
Yeah, they have a close relationship.
So,
yeah.
But hopefully it works out for Tartakovsky, because Warriors Unicorn Eternal did not go over well.
Honestly, at this point, Genndy should be tired of the studio system at this point. Because all the bullshit with Sony that he's had over the years and all the bullshit with Warner Brothers, and particularly with this when they were both playing hot potato.
I mean, I get the feeling that Genndy Tartakovsky might not be the easiest guy to work with on stuff like this, but I also get the feeling that a lot of the time when they're disagreeing about stuff, he's right.
As long as it's not about romance. Dear God, he cannot write romance.
I said a lot of the time, not always.
Stop writing romance, Tartakovsky.
Or maybe that wasn't necessarily fully his call, or maybe he was pushed toward that route.
Something, let's rip off the end of Gurren Lagann wholesale.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Warrior Unicorn Eternal. Dear God, the worst love triangle I have ever fucking seen. That series got the death it deserved.
Yeah, I mean,
Did it make Harlequin? Did it make Harlequin romance novels look like Shakespeare?
Yes.
I mean, look, I mean, with that extra Jack season, at least he tried. He tried. Emphasis on try. Emphasis on try. He attempted.
It's telling that the best love story he ever made was the one he didn't intend to make, Symbiotic Titan.
Yeah.
One day we'll get the end of that. I'll probably be dead.
No, probably not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Symbiotic Titan was written off, so it's in the tax hole.
It's in the abyss, but
I too wish to join the tax hole. Wait, no, hold on.
Anyway,
but yeah, I mean,
just have received a coupon for one night.
Anyway, I think that'll about do it for this week.
Yeah.
Such a short episode.
Yeah.
We still have.
That was a follow.
Have...
This was a follow-up episode, so there was less ground to cover this time.
Also, we started like 20 minutes early.
Yeah, we started earlier than we normally do.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that.
For once. Yeah.
We still have 14 minutes if we go the full 90 minutes.
There's nothing.
But we don't have to. We don't have to. All right. So next week on episode 18 on April. What the fuck is this? Where the hell are we here? April 23rd. I don't know what day it is.
It's April 23rd,
episode 18.
Yeah.
We got Adam. We got Adam Gottschalk of OTR, YouTube-based food documentary channel. Did you want to expand on that, Adam, or is it pretty much in the description there?
I mean, that is the basics of what OTR Food and History is. More elaborately, he lives in Bangkok, Thailand, and he does two kinds of documentaries. One is the history of like the essential food stuff, like the history of bread, the history of salt, the history of noodles, that kind of deal. And the other stuff is much more local, like, you know, what is Lao food? You know, the cuisine of Laos, a lot of Thai cuisine because he lives there. You know, I did just get an email from him over the course of the show. The time and date is good. He hasn't quite confirmed yet because he was looking for more information from our end. So you call this a work in progress.
All right.
So.
All right. Well, we will strive for on-timeness. Also, scrolling through the notes here, I do not need to be reminded of what the D-pad does. I have them in my recommended channels.
Okay.
Good to know.
We are cruising inexorably towards the end of season 19, folks. This was, of course, episode 17. We have 18, 19, 20, and 21 left to us before we wrap up for the break. So that should cruise us directly into summertime. But again, thanks to our guest tonight, and good talk, everybody. And I think I've filibustered enough for one night. So this is Mac Paladin. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there, kids.